Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two, the podcast with your host, Chris. It is me. I am that guy that I speak of currently right now with the words coming out of my mouth. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 133, or as I like to say, 23 reversed. No, it's not. I did made that joke last episode. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I would like to first off say if you guys would like to keep in contact with me, you can always do that through my Twitter and Instagram. Both are at casting42, as well as my email, castingfor2@gmail.com, or even the website, which is where you can find every episode, because iTunes and Google and Stitcher only does the first 100 episodes, and now I'm 33 past that. So go to the website. I have them all archived. You can listen to all of them from the beginning, where I didn't know what I was doing, to today, where I sort of have a clue of what I'm doing. So yeah. Hang on, the microphone's at a weird angle. There we go. I had to be all weird and stand up straight there for a second. But I should just get into today's guest. I'm having a massive brain fart. My guest today is a very talented musician. He's a violinist, a composer. His name is Andrew Joslyn, and I had a blast chatting with him. He's a very talented, like I said, musician. He's very talented. He kind of worked with this guy called Macklemore and his other guy, Ryan Lewis. You heard of them? Yes, you have. He worked on The Heist. And I was happy to sit down and chat with him. And a great guy, and I want you to listen to this episode. So, hey, why don't we just get into it? Sit back, relax, and Chris, cue the music, please.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Hey, Andrew, not much. And yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. So sorry for the delay. I had to find some good Wi-Fi.
There you go. That is always the problem, which it shouldn't be, because it's 2016.
It's true. But you know what? It's okay. I mean, it's still a commodity, so.
Right. That's true. It's funny, because I'm at my home, and my Wi-Fi is always spotty as well, and it's just I don't know what to do. Yeah, it should be good because I'm in my house, but even then it's like, I'd have better luck.
Are you CenturyLink? Are you Comcast? Are you?
I am Time Warner.
Oh, there you go.
So, and they do
you still have the old AOL account?
Yes.
You do?
No, I don't. No. I know. I'm just kidding.
Okay, good.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I blame their equipment.
Oh yeah, no, it's hardware failure.
Yeah, but what? Because when I was living in Chicago, they have Comcast out there, and so yeah. I would use that, and I had my own equipment, and everything ran smoothly. So
perfect.
That's
saying. What I got to. Yeah, perfect. Where are you located now?
I am in San Antonio, Texas now.
Oh, perfect. How's I hate this. It's going to sound crazy, but how's the weather down there?
So, no, that's a great question, because normally my response would be like, it's hot, it's humid, and it sucks. But although it is those things, but there's been a lot of rain going on.
Oh,
and
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I lived in Oregon for a majority of my life. So it's in Oregon. It rains a lot, especially in the Seattle, Washington area. So there's green, there's trees, there's grass. It's weird seeing that here.
Totally.
But yeah.
Yeah, and Did you live? You probably lived West Coast in Oregon because East is not very wet.
No, no, no. Yeah, no. I'm pretty much a West Coast kind of person.
Rad.
Yeah,
Well, there you go.
yeah.
Perfect.
There you go. And so, now for you, are you in Seattle or?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
I'm based out of Seattle. Grew up just outside of Seattle on Bainbridge Island.
Hmm.
Originally from California, so I'm strictly a West Coast kid. So
The,
through and through.
yeah, there's something about the West Coast that, if if you're a West Coast type of person like myself and you,
Hmm.
it's the best, and East Coast people don't get it.
Yeah. Yep, it's true.
My buddy who in Oregon moved to Philadelphia not too long ago, and he's just everybody knows I'm a West Coaster, and they think they're better than us. It's like,
Yeah.
well, they can think all they want.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
sure.
that's okay.
I
And
mean,
at least you and I are on the same page, so I think that
exactly, exactly. Now,
everything will run smoothly.
if you were an East Coaster, I think I might have to turn this off right now, and we'll just
That's
end it.
okay. That's okay.
But yeah, no.
So
Uh,
San Antonio, awesome.
That's okay.
Okay,
Yeah, it's okay. I'll just say it's okay. It's gotten better through the years, only because I just stay inside more often. But yeah, it's okay. Just
perfect.
just visit.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So one of the things I like to do is when I talk to somebody either in acting or in the musical area, I like to know when they first got their bug. In your case, when did you first get the musical bug?
Well, first and foremost, my parents got me playing violin when I was 5. So I've always kind of, it was like a family lineage to always have a musical bug. It was kind of impressed upon me from such an early age.
Mm-hmm.
Just like because my grandfather started the London String Quartet. My father was a pianist. Like I've had family members that were famous cellists, and there was a violinist. So there's a lot of kind of like classical, legacy that was passed down to me,
Yeah.
impressed upon me. And then I think like I did classical music for such a long time, and then by the time like I got to like high school, I just was dying inside because like the music I was listening to was like Tears for Fears,
Mm.
Police, Roxy Music. Um, like I was just I was following the beat of a different drummer essentially, and just classical music just didn't quite have the allure it once did. So I was essentially just wanting to be I wanted to be a violinist in a rock band.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think that's when I really got maybe honestly reinvigorated by music, and that's when I caught the bug. Is when I could actually like get really excited about playing music and like start joining up with friends groups. And my first rock band I was a part of was in high school, and the first professional one I actually got some traction with was like I joined up like my sophomore year of college.
Mm-hmm.
So and like got the electric violin, got all the guitar pedals, started doing looping and everything, and it's like and I haven't turned back since. So that's kind of like honestly that's the bug right there.
And so, were you given any other instrument options, or it was just nope? I mean, violin. Good luck. Play that till the day you die.
It was kind of one of those things. It's like they started me on violin, and it was such a bitch of an instrument to learn when you're a kid,
Yeah.
because it's not like a piano or a guitar where you just hit a note and it's in tune. The violin, the first like 2 years, you're learning how to just produce a tone that doesn't hurt other people. So by the time I like put in so much time, it's like you invest so much time into the freaking instrument just to make it sound good. And like
Mm-hmm.
by that point, I was like, I finally can make this thing sound good. Might as well just keep with it.
Yeah.
So, I learned piano just self-taught, like just by sitting down at my parents' like grand piano in the living room and just playing it years, year after year. So, but there wasn't any other like, like there was like I dabbled with guitar, I dabbled with mandolin. There's other instruments that I kind of dabbled around with, but by and large, like violin was the major instrument. I picked up the viola by default just because it's such a similar instrument to a violin.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is it's just a fifth lower. So there's other differences, but it was a relatively easy transition.
Right on. And it's one of the. I've always been jealous of string instruments, just because I have Donald Trump like hands. They're just a bit smaller. So
Yeah.
it's harder for me to do like the fast strings. So I've always been jealous, and
Yeah.
that I think that's partly why I like drumming more, because I mean I am a bit more caveman naturally, so it's like me hit drum. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Is that your main instrument of choice is drums?
it is now. The reason why I asked if you were thrown into violin is because when I got started in music, everybody said I look like a tuba player, because I'm a bigger guy with Donald
Mm-hmm.
Trump size hands, and so they said, you look like a tuba player, you're gonna play tuba. And my sister, who was in marching band and all that, I would always look at the drummers, the drum line, and just think, oh my gosh, I just want to do that. That looks like fun.
Yeah.
And they said, no, you're going to be a tuba player. And so it wasn't until high school when I realized I don't have to just play the tuba.
Right.
I can do other things, and so that's when I started doing drums. But like you, I got or not similarities. I got started in jazz drumming.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a fan of jazz at the time. And so I hated playing jazz drumming. I just wanted to drum though. But I now that I'm older and have seen the movie Whiplash, I have an appreciation for jazz.
That movie, yeah, Whiplash actually gave me like anxiety watching that film,
Did,
because there was definitely moments like, like with my classical training, it's like, oh, you're going to do this Bach partita really fucking fast, and you're just going to keep on doing it and doing it perfectly until I say you can't.
oh
Like you
jeez.
stop. So I was like, there was moments I was like, oh my God, I definitely have had classical string instructors that just would not let up. I was like, well, now I'm going to have nightmares for the next 2 weeks.
Oh geez. Yeah, no, I've never had
Yeah.
that musical teacher. Now, if it was me, the type of person I am now, if somebody throws something at my head, I'm out of there. Like, nope, not worth it. I don't want my head, but I
No, I
guess
mean,
yeah.
yeah, that's kind of how I was. I would have been the character in Whiplash all the way to the point where it was like, does he stay with the girlfriend or not? I was always the one that's like, oh yeah, totally, I'm staying with the girlfriend. At the expense of my music, at the expense of like everything else. I'm just gonna be the hopeless romantic.
There you go. I mean, look, you may not be doing what you like, but at least you got somebody with you, right?
Yeah, totally. You're not
So
alone. You
yeah,
can your career is in shambles, and you're not alone.
yeah. What? There you go. There you go.
Totally. See, it's the bestest of both the worlds.
So then
So,
after, so where did you go to school?
my undergraduate degree was violin performance and English lit, and I went to Western Washington University,
Mm-hmm.
right up in Bellingham, Washington. It's like due north from Seattle. It's right next to the Canadian border. So once I turned 19, I went and drank all the time in Vancouver and
Naturally.
Victoria. So it was awesome. Um, and then I did a bunch of postgraduate stuff at Berkeley in Boston. So like I got a master's certificate in music business and composition for film and TV, and just like that was all. That was like that was like where I got a lot of like the nuts and bolts of like good practical musical education. Because it's like the undergraduate stuff. I was just talking to a friend about this. It's like Western and a lot of like four-year institutions. They're they're really good at like a classical education.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, hey, here's your, music theory. Here's your ear training. Here's your history of Western music, and yeah, and it's like it's all great, but then at a certain point, you don't learn about licensing, publishing,
Right.
how to
Right.
run a label, how to tour, how do you budget for a record release, and I think at a certain point, like I was saying, I was in that rock band in college, and we were all really enthusiastic, and we were all like practicing so many hours a week, but then like we just didn't go anywhere because we just had no business acumen at all.
Right.
We were like, oh, we put a show in Wairika, California. That is so dope. And we drive all the way to Wairika. We're, losing money the entire time. But we show up at Wairika. There's no marketing. 2 people are at the venue, like the owner and his dog. That's it. And
There
it's
we
like,
go.
oh, maybe we should know what we're doing. So anyway, that's why I went to Berkeley.
Gotcha. No, that's cool. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I went to film school, and they teach you about the aspects of making a film and all that, but they don't. The school I went to anyway didn't teach me the business side,
Yeah,
which is very important. Well, I mean, they kind of touched on it the last end, but it was the last bit. But I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, like it's like I think everyone actually that ever goes to school should get like practical accounting and home ec. Like they should be required. How do you balance a checkbook? How do you actually
Right.
deal with insurance assholes?
Insurance asshole 101.
Yeah, like I think that would have been really good to know.
There you go. And I actually
So,
too. I turned 21 in Canada because that's where I went to school in Victoria.
oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
I think we're very similar, you and I.
Oh yeah, for sure, dude.
Sure.
Victoria, I just took my girlfriend to a little mini vacation. I just got back from touring for 2 months, and then went to Victoria for my mini vacation. And it's like perfect because you feel like you're still in Europe, but you're not really.
Right.
And like everyone drives on the right side of the road, and but you can still like get your English chocolates and toffee, and it's oh god, and you can have high tea. It's like perfect. It's like it's like the great transitional place between a European tour and getting back to Seattle, Washington.
Yeah. No, definitely. I love it up there. I love it. So when do you decide, you know what, I'm older now, I have the musical background, I played that gig in California, I'm ready to do my own album?
Yeah, well, for me, like I've been after college, like I was gigging with everybody. I was a studio musician with a ton of bands, because I was a really good improviser, because I joined a rock band, and I was one of the few violinists in Seattle that could just improvise essentially full string arrangements. So I could just walk into a studio one day, I could hear the track right then, and then just start playing and just being like, okay, well, you're in the key of A minor, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to, I'll record, here's your main violin line, here's a counter melody. Like essentially I could record a full string quartet just by myself, with between the recording a violin a couple of times, a viola a couple of times. I knew enough on cello that I could do that as well. So it was like, I got a reputation as just kind of like this one-man symphony player. So I did that a lot, and like I worked with, I started working with like Macklemore and Ryan Lewis back in like 2008 before they were ever a thing. I knew them forever. I'd worked with, there's a lot of different artists in Seattle and beyond that. Like I just kind of built this career on just being a super studio and live performer. And then eventually, like, at a certain point after, collaborating with so many artists where ultimately someone else always had the final say, And I think after, your umpteenth million album, when you like play there might be a violin part that I really, really loved. And but then ultimately it never shows up on the record. You know, there's still a little bit of you know, a bruised ego about it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's actually two reasons why I like started, you know, like took the step to like do my own record. The first one is really being able to say that I could do it on my own completely, start to finish, write the songs, write the arrangements, record the vast majority of the parts, you know, and do the production and everything. I wanted to just show myself that I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
It was more just kind of like that milestone ability to do it. But then the second side of it too is after the success of The Heist with Macklemore and Ryan Lewis,
Yeah.
I did a lot of co-writing with those guys, and it was one of these things that when that album blew up, everyone was like, "Oh my God, you worked on The Heist!" And I would go down to LA and have meetings with everyone, and you know, it's like I did the whole LA game, LA, New York, Nashville, and you know, was soliciting with A&R reps and producers and labels, and everyone was, they loved what I'd done over, you know, the last 10 years with so many variety of artists, like, you know, working with Judy Collins and Mark Lanigan from Queens of the Stone Age and blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, it was just, you know, it was the LA game. You're just a bunch of name dropping. And in the end, it's a little bit vapid. So when I actually went down there and was doing the work, they were always asking me, they're like, well, this is a great portfolio, but what do you actually do? What's your actual sound? What's your actual, like, who are you actually in all of this?
Right.
You know, which was both a disheartening realization for myself, but also really galvanizing, because it made me realize, like, oh shit, I really need to, you know, I've spent enough time essentially hiding behind other people's songs and, you know, just collaborating with them and writing music I was proud of, but it was ultimately hiding behind someone else's kind of songs and stuff. You know, it was. I just realized it was time for me to really put the time in and write my own music. You know.
Yeah, right on. And then so you do that, and Wake at the Bottom of the Ocean, which is
Yes.
you're out. It's not out yet, right? It comes out
No,
this
no, no,
summer.
no. Yeah, we're probably looking at having it come out in early fall. I think
Okay, early fall.
it looks like mid-September at this point. So, but yeah, that album is the fruits of that labor is it's also, I think the other thing too is, like, I really wanted to, I've co-written a lot of songs with different artists, but I'd never written my own song about my own life,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and gone through the weird self-auditing process of just like, well, let's write about this ex-girlfriend, or let's, you know, which I think was ultimately really uh, cathartic and healthy for me to do.
Yeah.
You know, as such a strict instrumentalist for so many years, actually being able to write about, actually putting narrative behind my music was, I think, really powerful. And I don't think I'm ever going to go back, because it adds such an additional level of humanity to the writing that
Uh-huh.
you don't get with just strict instrumental pieces, you know.
Right. And so
So
and
yeah.
I was listening to the album, and Coal Miner, the first single.
Yeah.
Can I
Well,
just
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, sorry. No, I was just gonna say I enjoyed that song so much, and I was just like, why? It feels familiar to me. I don't. I think it should be. You should do something for like the James Bond movies. You can totally compose.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
It sounded like
It,
straight out of James Bond for me.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because it's like, it's saying, people have, yeah, said that about I Should Have Said Goodbye, where it has a very John Barry sound.
Uh huh.
You know, it's got that really driving there. You know, there's the, you know, the almost trip hoppy beats behind full symphonic stuff. You know, yeah, absolutely. The album, it reeks of the 1960s.
Uh
So it's, yeah, no, I would absolutely, you know, another thing too for writing that album is I would love to be doing more scoring work, you
huh.
know, be it for International Man of Mystery kind of film
Mm.
stuff, or, you know, I mean, I would absolutely love that, So, yeah, and the thing too about like Coal Miner is it was actually, the whole album kind of spans the course of my life of how it was in 2015. And like at the beginning of that year, like I dealt with a really tragic house fire that like I lost like 90% of my belongings and my like cat died.
Oh,
So it
jeez.
was just like, that's what Coal Miners is about, is essentially like, oh yeah, you walk into this old apartment and you're like picking up the blackened pieces of, your past life, and kind of, insurance asks you to value everything so you can say if it's salvageable or unsalvageable, or if they're going to pay you for it or not. So it was like it was a really weird, bizarre, like 3 days going through and picking up like old cans of hairspray and being like, well, this was originally like $20 when I bought it, but with depreciation and, well, now since it's covered in smoke, I guess it's only worth $5. So I'm going to ask for $5 for this.
Yeah.
So it was just like, so yeah, coal miners. So it just felt like I was always going down into a coal mine because it's like I had to wear a gas mask, and it was just, it was a very weird way to start 2015. So that's what that song's about.
Interesting. So less James Bond, more apartment fire.
More apartment fire. No, it's funny because I actually that song specifically, I was listening to a ton of Bjork and her new record. Oh my God, not is that Vernacular, or what is the new one she put out about her divorce? So I was like wallowing in the darkness of Morchiba and Portishead. So that's like where. That's kind of like where that kind of dark track kind of came from.
Gotcha. And so when you're doing the album, what is the hardest track for you, whether it was, writing or figuring out the music for?
The first track, I think actually the track that really took the longest for me and I really struggled with was Mantra for a Struggling Artist. When I started writing it, the chorus sounded like a freaking Hallmark commercial. Because it's like I wanted to, essentially I was trying to, I was struggling with the idea of being an artist, what it means to be an artist, what does it mean to make money as a career professional artist, but then like, sometimes you're taking on jobs that you're not too proud of, writing podcast music or commercial music, and then it's like, but you have to do that. So it's like, essentially it's like, what's the balance between being the myth of the starving artist versus like, so like literally that entire year, because money was such an issue for me, I was trying to think of like what is the actual modern struggle for an artist, and I came up with this most ridiculous chorus that it just sounded like a Hallmark card, like don't give up, it's all good, everything is good, and you're just, everyone's an artist, and just go for it and stop thinking about it. And I just like I couldn't handle it. Like I would always skip past the track. Like I wasn't inspired by it. Like it made me cringe. Like everyone else was like, oh yeah, it sounds great, man. I'm like, no, this sounds like crap. Like I can't deal with this. And eventually, toward like I kept going back. Do you know the artist David Bazan? Do you know about him with Pedro the Lion?
He sounds familiar.
He was with his band Pedro the Lion. They released a bunch of stuff back in like the 90s and early 2000s, and my own string quartet, the Passenger String Quartet, we did an album with him and toured the US, and he's one of those lifer musicians. He's gonna be playing music to the day he dies, but one thing he told me that I thought was like really amazing is he was getting really upset about young artists who like are like immediate overnight success stories. You know, they're like YouTube phenoms where all of a sudden they got like 10 million followers, and only because they covered Hosier or something, you know.
Right.
And he was just like he's like, man, these artists, these young people are like, they're not putting in the time, they're not grinding, they don't really know the reality of the music industry. You know, they're just all of a sudden you little entitled entitled shits that they haven't had their hearts broken by the music industry. You know, and then all of a sudden once they, you know, they're signed to like Epic Records and stuff, and they all of a sudden, you know, realize that that's really when the hard work comes in, when you really have to tour your ass off and you really have to work hard. A lot of them just don't have the, you know, they don't have the strength or the endurance to actually pull it off.
Right.
You know, the main thing he said is like, you know what, really every artist, you need to have your heart broken over and over and over again. Realize that the reason you keep on doing it is because you love it, not because you're in love with the fame or the fortune or anything else, with what you do. So that kind of story and like ultimately made me rewrite the course to Mantra for Struggling Artists and be like, well, you know what, actually this sucks. Being an artist sucks, but I love it, and this is why I do it.
And there you
So
go.
that was that. Sorry for the long story, but that was some reason, like trying to come up with something that really meant something to me, but also something that I could really like stand behind and not just be like, this is your Hallmark card, you know, this is why you do music. I don't know. For some reason, that was one of the hardest ones for me to write, lyrically. And then I think another one that was like really difficult for me to do like instrumentally was actually Coal Miner, because I was having it, you know, it starts off in D minor, and then it modulates into F minor, and then it modulates in the bridge, and then it goes all the way back. So it's like, one thing on the songs on the album was not just have the typical pop format where it's like, you know, it's your 1-4-5-1 turnaround, and it's, you know, it's all really easy, predictable pop music. I wanted to instill a little bit of kind of more advanced like music theory and modulating, and you know, like kind of the stuff that classical students all like jacked up on.
Right.
But I just wanted to introduce just enough so it was interesting, but it wasn't like too ivory tower academic that all of a sudden, you know, normal people would just be like, I don't know where this guy is going. I don't know what this music's doing, you know. So it was just some of the songs I had a bit of difficulty trying to figure out that balance between being too classical, head trippy, and just straightforward pop, you know. And I think I did an okay job on most of the songs, kind of like writing that balance between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Coal Miners was one of the ones that I was like, I definitely was trying my best to kind of have that. So, and it took a little longer to write.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, but I mean, it really does show how much effort was that you put on the album, because it sounds awesome, and I enjoyed listening. It's
Thank
not.
you.
I mean, I too am more of a rock kind of guy, but I started listening and go, okay, alrighty, I'm digging this. I'm liking this. I could listen. I could walk to this.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Ultimately, it's like that. You know, I don't put on classical records. I don't know. There's, you know, I always put on like pop and rock records, and you know, like a David Bowie record to get me through stuff. I don't
Right.
know. Like, it's interesting. I have more. There's more feeling and emotion. And I mean, this is just me personally, that I get from those kind of records than from a classical record.
Right.
I don't know. Like I you know, it's like I love listening to like, you know, like Szigeti or like some of these other amazing classical artists, you know, play Bach over and over, and Beethoven, and you know, Prokofiev. But at a certain point, you know, for me at least as an artist, it was those pop records. It's the, you know, it was like the jazz singers. It's like the Sam Cookes of the world that were really like, oh man, that that's when you sit there and just wallow or like really feel reinvigorated, or those were the life-changing moments for me, you know. So that's what I wanted. That's good. I'm really glad that you could walk to it.
Yes.
Right.
So for the people at home who'd like to keep up with the more music you do, or even when the album comes out,
Yep.
where can they do that?
Yep. So I have all the typical social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all Andrew Joslyn Music. Well, my website's andrewjoslynmusic.com, and Joslyn is Joslyn. And I'm like, yeah, I'm talking about it all the time. At this point, it's tentatively set for September. The only reason it's kind of a little bit more malleable at this point is we're still doing the label, PR, marketing, a magical game of chess.
Yeah.
So, you know, just to kind of see, you know, I think at this point, like I've come to the conclusion that I want to put this out independently. Like I think I've always wanted to do that, but I think the more and more here's the funny thing is the more and more I've been in the music industry, the more I realize no one really knows what they're talking about.
Right.
Even the people that have been around forever, because it's always changing. The landscape is so malleable and so nuts right now. Like, are you going to put your stuff on Spotify? Are you not? Are you going to make money off streaming or not? And blah, 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 blah. And it's like at a certain point, it's like, you know what, man, I just want to put out my music. Like, I'm going to do the best I can from marketing and doing, you know, proper business back checking, you know, but it's like, you know, at a certain point, I would rather do all the legwork myself. So anyway, long story short, yeah, it's going to look like it's going to be coming out in September. And for all additional musings and information, just go to andrewjoslynmusic.com.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, Andrew, I had a blast talking with you, and anytime,
Thanks, man. Me too.
Anytime you want to come on or write me an awesome podcast jingle, just let me know, okay?
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, if you need like, do you want like a James Bondy jingle for your show?
I want something a little bit more Hallmarky. Can you do that?
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I'll do it with bells and baby voices.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
You'll have the little cherubs. Yeah.
Well, yeah, anytime you want to come back on, just let me know. All right, man?
Yeah, that would be awesome. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you, and you have a wonderful rest of the day.
You, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.